What if I told you that this world, your job, your relationships, your goals, even your body, is not life, but a kind of afterlife? Not in the poetic, sentimental way people talk about legacy or memory, but literally. What if this is not the beginning of your journey, but a continuation you've already forgotten? Not life before death, but consciousness after it? It sounds like a riddle, a thought experiment, something to pass around in a late-night conversation, but what if it's the most important truth you've never considered? Since the moment you took your first breath, you were handed a script. Not one you wrote, but one others wrote for you. Life is this. Time works like that. You are this name, this gender, this role. You were told you began with birth and will end with death, that consciousness is a byproduct of the brain, and that the material world is the only one that matters. You were taught that if something can't be seen, touched, or measured, it isn't real. And so, you built your identity on foundations you never laid, lived inside a framework you never questioned, and assumed reality was exactly as advertised. But what if the advertising was wrong? What if the map isn't the territory? Let's pause here. Let's entertain the unsettling possibility that this realm, the one you wake up in each morning, where time ticks forward and objects appear solid, isn't reality in its truest form. What if this world is the illusion, not random or meaningless, but intentional, a mirror rather than the source? What if every experience you've called real life is more akin to a dream playing out after you've already died in another plane of existence? It's not an idea meant to shock for the sake of it. It's an idea rooted in something deeper, a universal whisper that has echoed across mystical traditions, sacred texts, and near-death experiences for millennia. Not just in poetry or metaphor, but in specific, pointed teachings that describe this realm not as the beginning of your soul's journey, but as a kind of dream state or transitional space. And you've felt it, haven't you? That strange sense that something's off, the moments when time feels like it bends or stretches, when reality glitches ever so slightly, when life feels both familiar and foreign, as if you've walked this path before, but can't quite remember when or where. You've been taught to ignore those feelings, to chalk them up to imagination, stress, or coincidence. But those moments, the ones that feel like echoes, may be the only real things you've ever experienced. They are your soul trying to wake itself up. Think about this. In your dreams at night, everything feels real until you wake up. You walk through landscapes, have conversations, feel emotions so vivid they leave residue even after you've opened your eyes. But the moment you wake, you realize it was all projection, your mind creating a world around you that vanished the second your awareness shifted. What if that's exactly what's happening now, but in reverse? What if you're not dreaming at night, but remembering during the day? The ancient inversion says that what you call life is actually the in-between. That birth is not the starting point, but the entry into a symbolic realm where your consciousness is put through a kind of test, not to earn worthiness, but to remember origin. In many mystical teachings, Earth is not the real world. It's the veil, a place of forgetting, of symbolism, of dream logic dressed in the clothes of materialism. And death, it's not the end. It's not even a destination. It's a transition from one layer of perception to another, like shifting from one dream to a deeper one, or finally waking up. The unsettling part is this: if that's true, then your entire perception of reality has been upside down. You haven't been born into life, you've been born into a realm of remembrance. You're not a body moving through space, you're awareness navigating a dream, and in this dream, everything is symbolic. Your family, your struggles, your passions, your heartbreaks, they aren't random events on a linear timeline. They are coded messages, mirrors, catalysts. You came here with amnesia for a reason. You agreed to forget. You agreed to enter the maze with no memory of the exit, because the forgetting is the beginning of the real lesson. And like any dream, the clues are scattered everywhere, if you're willing to notice them. That odd sense of familiarity when visiting a place you've never been, that gut feeling you can't explain when meeting someone for the first time, those recurring numbers, dreams, or synchronicities that feel too precise to be chance. They aren't trivial. They're whispers from your higher self, breadcrumbs to guide you home. But here's the twist. If this realm is a mirror, then what you see is not the truth itself, but your beliefs reflected back at you. The people in your life? They show you parts of yourself you haven't healed. The obstacles? They reveal where you've chosen fear over expansion. The successes? They confirm the moments you aligned with your true self, even if only for a second. You've mistaken the reflection for the source. And in doing so, you've been trying to fix the mirror instead of adjusting the light within. This is the true spiritual paradox. To awaken here, you must first realize you're asleep. To find truth, you must. Have you ever had a moment that felt too perfectly timed to be chance? A thought that popped into your head seconds before someone spoke it aloud. A song playing with lyrics that answered a question you didn't even say out loud. Seeing the same number over and over again in places that seemed disconnected from each other. Maybe you brushed it off, smiled for a second, and whispered, "Weird." But what if it wasn't just weird? What if it was a message? A breadcrumb? Strange coincidences have followed you your entire life. They hide in the quiet corners of your days, disguised as chance, wrapped in timing so precise it almost dares you not to notice. Déjà vu, recurring numbers, dreams that spill into reality, people showing up at the exact moment you need them, sometimes even years after you've forgotten their name. These aren't glitches in the system. These are signals, cracks in the illusion gently trying to get your attention. From the moment you arrived in this realm, you've been playing a game you agreed to forget. A maze of meaning buried beneath a surface of routine. But the soul doesn't forget entirely. And sometimes, it leaks. It leaks through in whispers, in the familiar curve of a stranger's smile, in a sentence that feels like a memory, in patterns that repeat so often they begin to feel like signs. And they are, because nothing in this dream world is random, not in the way you've been taught to believe. You've been conditioned to accept that coincidences are meaningless, that life unfolds in a mechanical way, cold and disconnected, like clockwork. But reality doesn't operate like a machine. It operates like a mirror, and sometimes, that mirror cracks just wide enough for you to see what's behind it. That's what these moments are. They're not bugs in the program. They are the intentional flaws woven into the simulation, so that if you're paying attention, you can begin to question the nature of the program itself. Think about it. How many times have you felt like something was trying to communicate with you, but you couldn't explain why? You think of someone you haven't spoken to in years, and hours later, they text you. You hear a phrase in a dream, and the next morning, it appears on a billboard. You have a gut feeling to turn down a street you don't usually take, and that tiny decision changes everything. These are not background noise. These are intentional. They are echoes. Echoes of a deeper awareness trying to make contact with the part of you that still remembers where you came from. Because you're not just a body navigating a world, you're a soul navigating a waking dream. And just like dreams at night, this reality speaks in symbols. Not every message is loud. Most of them are quiet, subtle, poetic. The universe isn't screaming, it's whispering. And synchronicities are its language. It's easy to dismiss these things, especially in a culture obsessed with logic. You were taught to rely only on what can be measured, named, categorized. But the most important truths are always felt before they're proven. And you've felt this, haven't you? That sense of interconnectedness, of something unseen pulling the strings. Those moments when life feels almost scripted, but in a way that makes you feel known, guided, watched over. That's not superstition. That's consciousness recognizing itself. What if you started looking at these strange moments differently? Instead of calling them coincidences, what if you called them conversations? Not with another person, but with the field itself, the intelligent pattern underneath the fabric of this reality. Because the more you notice them, the more they show up. Not because they're increasing, but because you are finally seeing. There's a reason the same numbers follow you. There's a reason certain dreams linger while others vanish. There's a reason you feel like you've been somewhere before. It's because your soul is looping through this realm, trying to wake itself up. Déjà vu isn't just a brain glitch. It's a checkpoint, a spiritual checkpoint. It's your deeper self whispering, "We've been here before. Pay attention this time." Some moments feel like time folds in on itself, as if past, present, and future collapse into one instant where everything makes sense for a brief second. You might feel chills, or time might seem to pause. That's not your imagination. That's presence piercing the veil. That's your awareness aligning so perfectly with what is that the illusion begins to flicker. You see behind the curtain for just a moment. These moments aren't meant to entertain you. They're meant to wake you. They are your soul's breadcrumbs. Tiny reminders scattered across your timeline to help you remember that you're inside something far stranger and far more beautiful than you were ever told. This isn't just a life. This is the in-between. A place of forgetting, yes, but also a place of potential awakening. And the clues are everywhere. The question is, will you follow them? You see, the nature of this realm is not random, it's reflective. What you focus on begins to echo back at you. So when you start noticing synchronicities, it's not just that the universe is sending more, it's that your awareness is tuning into a deeper channel, one you've always had access to, but forgot existed. It's like tuning a radio. The frequency was always there, you just weren't aligned with it, until now. Once you start listening, you begin to hear it everywhere. In overheard conversations that answer questions you haven't spoken, in the timing of events that feel like a setup for your growth, in the perfectly aligned sequence of lessons, losses, and encounters that seem almost choreographed. That's not chaos, that's orchestration, and it goes deeper. Because when you begin to follow these threads, they lead you inward. Every external synchronicity is matched by an internal one, an insight, a remembering, a sudden knowing that feels ancient. This is your higher consciousness, using the illusion to wake itself up within the dream. You're not just experiencing synchronicities, you're creating them. You're participating in the design of your own awakening. The surreal nature of these moments is intentional. They don't make sense in a linear, logical world, because this isn't a linear, logical world. It only pretends to be. Underneath, it's fluid, symbolic, alive. And these moments are like pressure points in the dream, spots where the boundary between this world and the real one behind it becomes thin. So the next time you catch one, don't brush it off. Lean in. Ask yourself, what is this moment trying to tell me? What am I being shown? Because the answer is never random. It's always a reflection, a glimpse of the architecture behind the illusion, a coded invitation to remember that this isn't the world you were born into, it's the one you passed into after something else ended. You've been given just enough memory to sense that something is off, just enough curiosity to start asking questions, just enough strange beauty to wonder if you're being guided. You are, and every surreal coincidence is another knock on the door of your awareness. You can ignore them, you can call them chance, you can live as if this is just a normal life with normal events, or you can start to see this world for what it really is, a reflection designed to wake you, a dream with signs hidden in plain sight, a message written in the language of pattern, the sacred geometry of coincidence. And you are the one who placed those messages here, not to entertain yourself, but to remember. What if I told you that the strangest moments in your life, the ones you dismiss as odd, eerie, or just plain coincidence, aren't random at all? What if they're messages, echoes of a deeper reality bleeding through the surface of this one? You've felt it, a sudden wave of familiarity in a place you've never been, a person finishing your sentence before you've spoken it, repeating numbers chasing you across license plates, clocks, receipts, and dreams. It's easy to brush them off. You've been trained to. But what if those moments are the exact places where the illusion thins, where the curtain slips and something vast and intelligent looks directly at you? You weren't meant to sleep through this existence, but forgetfulness is part of the design. Still, something in you remembers. It tries to speak, not in words, but in patterns, in synchronicities, in strange, poetic alignments that seem to dance just outside of logic's reach. You might think they're accidental, that they just happen, but if they were meaningless, why do they feel so significant? Why do they stop you in your tracks, leave your heart pounding, or fill you with a sense of quiet awe, as if something far bigger than you is at play? Déjà vu isn't just a neural misfire. It's a checkpoint. A spiritual reminder that you've stood here before, not necessarily in body, but in consciousness. It's a whisper from beyond saying, watch this moment, something important is happening. When the same scenario plays out again, down to the tone of voice, the exact angle of light in the room, or the feeling that you somehow already know what's about to happen next, That's not random. That's you stepping briefly outside of time, remembering the architecture beneath the story. You see, time in this realm is fluid. It only feels linear because your body is bound to it, but your awareness, that moves differently. It slips between layers while you dream. It receives signals from the future in moments of stillness. It loops back through key moments again and again until you start paying attention. You call it coincidence when the same message appears 3 times in a day, from a friend, a book, and a stranger on the street. But it's not coincidence, it's precision. Your consciousness is being nudged. When a phrase you dreamed last night appears on a billboard today, when you think of someone and they call seconds later, when you're struggling with a question and the answer arrives in a song lyric, a book you randomly open, or a child's innocent comment, those aren't random alignments. Those are breadcrumbs left along your path, and the more you begin to notice them, the more they begin to speak, not in human language, but in the sacred rhythm of your soul trying to remember its own design. You may have forgotten the agreement you made before entering this dream. You may have forgotten what this world actually is, a construct designed to help you evolve, not entertain you, but something within you has always known. That strange pull you feel when you look up at the stars, that ache in your chest when you hear a song that feels like home, that inexplicable certainty that there's more to life than what you see. These are not feelings without source, they are echoes, and the coincidences are not trivial. They are sacred signs pointing toward the real. Most people ignore them because they're subtle. The world taught you to value logic above intuition, evidence above energy. You were taught that if something can't be proven, it isn't real. But the deepest truths can't be proven in the ways you've been taught to measure reality. They can only be known through experience, through recognition, through that internal stillness that rises when something clicks in your soul. That's what these moments do. They click. They unlock something you didn't know you were missing. They point you inward. Have you ever watched a pattern unfold in your life so perfectly that it almost felt scripted, as if someone or something was arranging your path behind the scenes? You lose your job, then meet someone new who opens an unexpected door. You miss a train, only to avoid an accident you'll never be told about. You find an old photo, then dream of that exact moment the same night. These are not random disruptions. They are carefully placed disruptions in the flow of the dream, gentle glitches meant to wake you. They break the rhythm of the illusion just long enough for your true self to peek through. The surreal quality of these moments is no accident. They shimmer, they buzz, they make reality feel paper thin. That's because they are collisions between your higher self and your current storyline, between the truth you buried and the script you're living out. They are not errors in the program. They are signatures of your deeper awareness, signed into the fabric of the illusion so that you wouldn't completely forget. When you begin to truly see them, not just with your mind but with your whole being, something changes. You begin to feel watched, not in a fearful way, but in a deeply sacred way, as if life is conscious of you, as if the universe is in a quiet relationship with your every step, and it is. Reality mirrors you constantly. What you feel, believe, and focus on is reflected in the events that unfold around you. And the synchronicities? They are confirmation that your inner and outer worlds are beginning to align. But don't expect them to make sense to everyone else. This isn't a collective awakening. It's a deeply personal one. What appears to be random to someone else might be a life-altering message for you. A license plate with your birth date. A child reciting a line you wrote in a journal 10 years ago. A chance encounter with someone who mirrors a forgotten version of yourself. This is not fantasy. This is the language of the soul learning to speak again after lifetimes of silence. Every coincidence that feels like more than chance is more than chance. It's a coded message meant only for you. It's a reminder that you are not just drifting through life. You are being guided by a part of you that remembers this world isn't the real one. It's the in-between, the veil, the place where your awareness tests itself by forgetting, and then slowly, deliberately, finding its way back to the light. So the next time life whispers to you in symbols, the next time a pattern repeats so precisely that it makes your skin tingle, the next time reality seems to wink at you in a moment of perfect timing, don't dismiss it. Don't retreat back into doubt, or logic, or fear. Instead, pause. listen, respond, because you are not hallucinating, you are not imagining it, you are waking up. And waking up in the dream doesn't look like a grand revelation. It looks like noticing the smallest things: a feather in your path, a word you keep hearing, a conversation that feels like it was meant only for you. These are the fingerprints of the divine scattered across your life. And every time you follow them, you're following yourself back to the origin, the part of you that never forgot, even when every part of the dream asked you to. This isn't just a life you're living, it's a dialogue, a puzzle, a remembrance, and every surreal coincidence is a crack in the illusion waiting for you to notice. Not to entertain you, but to awaken you, to remind you that this reality isn't just happening to you, it's happening through you, for you, with you. You are not lost, you are being led. You just have to decide if you're ready to see the signs. What if I told you that you're not waiting to enter the afterlife, because you're already inside it? Not in some abstract or metaphorical sense, but literally. Right now, this moment, the one you're living, breathing, thinking through, is part of a transitional state far stranger and more sacred than you've been told. Everything around you, from the ticking of the clock to the heaviness of your body, may not be signs of life at all, but signs of something else entirely. Not the beginning of existence, but a continuation, a phase between what was and what could be. You think you're alive, but what if you're actually dreaming inside a layer of consciousness designed to help you wake up? You've been taught that the afterlife comes later, that it waits on the other side of your final breath, guarded by gates, weighed by judgments, or held in mystery. But what if that narrative was reversed? What if the veil doesn't descend when you die, but when you're born? This world feels solid, but solidity is an illusion. This timeline feels linear, but time here doesn't flow. It spirals. And everything you're experiencing, every heartbreak, every coincidence, every moment of beauty or pain, may not be random, but chosen by you. Because Earth, as it turns out, may not be the destination, it may be the corridor, a cosmic dream between dreams. In Tibetan Buddhism, there is a word for this kind of space. It's called the bardo. The bardo is described as a realm between death and rebirth, a place of confusion, of visions, of spiritual opportunity. Most people believe the bardo comes only after the heart stops beating, but the deeper teachings suggest something far more disorienting. That the bardo is not a place you enter after death, it's where you already are. You are, in this very moment, a wandering soul moving through a symbolic landscape, one shaped by your thoughts, your beliefs, your attachments. You are not in a stable world, you are in a fluid dream, one designed to reflect you back to yourself at every turn. In this space, nothing is what it seems. The people you meet, the events you face, the trials you endure, they all carry deeper meaning beneath their surface appearances. You think you're dealing with co-workers, lovers, neighbors, friends, but on the level of soul, you may be interacting with archetypes, with mirrors, with tests. The bardo is not punishment. It's not a holding cell. It's a mirror maze. And each reflection is an invitation to remember who you really are, beyond the roles you've been playing. The ancient Egyptians had their own version of this idea. They called it the duat. In modern terms, it's often described as the underworld, a place the soul journeys through after death, filled with challenges, symbols, guardians, and illusions. But when you study the teachings closely, a more haunting truth begins to emerge. The duat wasn't only something that came after life, it was also seen as something that overlays this world. The inscriptions etched into tomb walls didn't describe it as a separate realm far away, but as a mirrored version of Earth, an energetic landscape filled with trials that reflect the internal state of the soul. To walk through life unaware, in their view, was to wander the duat unknowingly. You could pass through your days asleep, speaking, moving, eating, but spiritually adrift, caught between two poles of consciousness, not fully dead, but not truly alive either. The heart, they believed, had to be lighter than a feather to escape the loop. That feather wasn't just a symbol of morality, it was a symbol of awareness. The heavier your attachments, the denser your illusions, the harder it became to see the way out. And here you are, in a world filled with illusions that appear real. You feel hunger, you feel joy, you feel heartbreak and desire. You suffer, you hope, you chase things. And yet, something inside you senses there's more, something that whispers late at night, in the quiet between thoughts, that this life feels like a play. You've felt the roles you've had to wear. The scripted nature of small talk. The way people repeat the same cycles, say the same phrases, react in predictable patterns. It's not because life is boring, it's because you're inside a designed environment, a loop that tests your perception. This is not punishment. This is opportunity. The test is not to escape life. The test is to recognize it for what it is. You're not here to prove your worth. You already are worthy. You're here to remember your origin. To reawaken the divine spark that was temporarily dimmed so you could experience contrast. Contrast is what creates clarity, and clarity is what leads to awakening. But awakening doesn't come from more information. It comes from deeper seeing. And you begin to see clearly the moment you stop assuming this world is the final one. In the Bardo, according to ancient texts, souls become confused because they don't realize they've died. They try to touch the living world, to speak, to be seen, but no one responds. The surroundings seem familiar but off, as if something has shifted. That description may sound hauntingly familiar. Have you ever felt unseen in your own life? Like you're going through the motions, shouting into a world that doesn't hear you. Like you're trying to connect but only brushing against reflections. Maybe that's not just emotional loneliness. Maybe that's spiritual dissonance. A signal that you're not in the world you thought you were. Every ancient tradition that dared to look deeper into the nature of existence arrived at a similar conclusion. That what we perceive as the physical world is a lesser reality, a projection, a veil. Some called it Maya. Others called it the cave. Some said we are asleep. Others said we are trapped. But the language doesn't matter as much as the implication. That this isn't it. This isn't the end. It's a passage, a trial, a riddle. And yet, here's the grace. You're not being punished. You're being offered a map. Every coincidence, every repeating pattern, every haunting dream or strange synchronicity, they're not meaningless. They're clues. They are your soul sending signals to itself, reminding you that you're inside something that was never meant to last. Something designed to test your ability to see through it. Not to escape it violently, but to transcend it gently. By remembering, you are not the character you're playing. You are the awareness behind the mask. The mask has a name, a face, a story. But you, what you truly are, is timeless. You were before this. And you will be after. Right now, you're in the in-between. The dream between death and rebirth. The bardo, the dua, the corridor between forgetting and remembering. And the more you awaken to that truth, the more lucid the dream becomes. This world isn't asking you to fear it. It's asking you to recognize it. And once you do, everything begins to shift. The heavy moments become symbolic. The suffering becomes sacred. The patterns reveal their message. And you realize, you were never lost. You were dreaming. And now, you are beginning to wake up. What if I told you that the reason you feel so lost sometimes, so disconnected, so unsure of who you really are, is because you are experiencing a very specific kind of forgetting, one that was chosen, one that was necessary. You didn't lose yourself, you agreed to forget. And that forgetting wasn't an accident, it was a design. Because in this realm, where you now find yourself, memory is not immediate. It is earned through awareness, retrieved not by logic, but by presence. You don't remember who you were before this life. You don't remember dying. And the truth is, you weren't supposed to, at least, not at first. The soul, when it transitions into this in-between state, what we often mistake for the beginning of life, passes through a veil. That veil is not just symbolic, it is energetic. It is a field of forgetting that gently disconnects you from the knowing of your infinite nature, so that you may fully immerse yourself in the experience of form. And here's the paradox. Without forgetting, you couldn't truly explore. You couldn't play the roles, feel the depth of emotion, experience the contrast that teaches you who you are by showing you who you are not. But even in that, forgetting, something remains. A flicker, a whisper, a persistent ache that tells you, there is more. You've felt it, haven't you? That soft hum beneath the noise of your daily life, that longing that no relationship, no success, no possession can quite soothe. That isn't depression or dissatisfaction. It's the echo of what you used to know. It's the soul, hidden beneath the layers of your personality, reaching back toward a memory that language cannot touch. You didn't forget because something went wrong. You forgot because that's how this realm works. Amnesia is the starting point. It's not a flaw. It's the initiation. But then something strange happens. As you grow inside this dream, you begin to believe that the roles you play are who you are. You're given a name, a culture, a gender, a set of beliefs, and you wear them like a costume you never take off. And eventually, you forget that it's a costume at all. You begin to think, this is me. This is all I've ever been. But it's not. Every identity you cling to is a mask. And each mask was chosen not to reveal you, but to hide you. Not to punish you, but to delay your awakening until the precise moment your soul is ready to remember. You wear these identities like armor because the truth feels too vast to hold all at once. So instead, you hold fragments. You become someone's child, someone's partner, someone's employee. You define yourself by your past, your body, your preferences. But none of those things are fixed. They shift, they break, they fall apart. And when they do, you panic. Not because you've lost yourself, but because you've lost the illusion you mistook for self. The real you has never changed. It's simply been waiting behind the curtain. Why don't you remember dying? Because if you did, if the full memory of who you were flooded into this dream at once, it would short-circuit the experience. This realm requires immersion. It's like being dropped into the middle of a story without knowing the beginning or the end. That's how the soul learns. That's how it becomes conscious of itself within the illusion. The forgetting is not a punishment. It's a safeguard, like a sleep so deep that only certain sounds can wake you. And when those sounds come, through trauma, through synchronicity, through moments of stillness, you begin to stir. And when you stir, the world begins to feel different. People seem like actors. Time feels loose. Emotions deepen. Reality takes on a dreamlike quality. That's not insanity. That's remembrance. That's the soul returning to the surface. And when it does, you begin to see the masks for what they are. You start asking dangerous questions. Who was I before this body? Who will I be after? What part of me has never changed? And in that asking, the veil thins. The veil isn't just between lives, it's between thoughts. It's between the version of you that reacts from habit and the version that watches silently behind your eyes. The observer, the witness. That part of you never forgot. It has been recording everything, quietly, patiently, waiting for you to remember that you are not the character, but the awareness watching the character unfold. You don't remember dying because you never really died. You transitioned. You passed through one layer of consciousness into another, like slipping from one dream into the next. But the next dream is thicker. It moves slower. It feels heavier. And in that heaviness, memory becomes harder to access. The rules here are different. Time is linear. Identity is fixed. And pain feels permanent. But none of those things are true. They are part of the design. The pain you feel in losing someone you love, the grief that guts you, the ache that refuses to leave, these are not signs that you're broken. They are signs that your soul remembers connection in its purest form. Grief exists because you remember a time when separation didn't, and part of waking up in this dream means learning how to hold that grief without letting it define you. It means learning to recognize that even death is not an end, but a shift. And here's the beauty of it. The soul may forget, but it never truly loses what it's learned. The lessons are stored, the memories are sealed. And as you begin to awaken, those memories return, not as data, but as intuition, as sudden knowing, as resonance. You hear something, and it feels true. You meet someone, and they feel familiar. You walk into a place, and it feels like home. That is the soul speaking through the veil. You are not who you think you are. You are more. You are the dreamer inside the dream, searching for the moment when you will open your eyes and remember that you wrote the script. And every time you release an identity, every time you stop clinging to the roles you've played, every time you let go of the need to prove or perform, you peel back another layer. You move one step closer to the truth that was always waiting beneath the surface. So yes, you've forgotten. That was part of the plan. But you are remembering now, slowly, gently, in your own time. And every tear, every synchronicity, every crack in the illusion is helping you come back. Not to the person you were before this life, but to the soul you've always been. The one who never left, the one who simply chose to dream until it was ready to wake up. What if I told you that the memories you think are yours, the stories you claim, the preferences you hold, the fears you can't explain, might not all belong to this version of you? What if buried beneath the noise of this current life are echoes from lifetimes you've already lived? Not just poetic notions of reincarnation, but visceral threads of energy that ripple through your emotions, your relationships, and your choices. You weren't born blank, you were born layered. And sometimes, those layers bleed through the surface in ways that logic can't explain, but your soul immediately recognizes. You've felt it before. Meeting someone for the first time, and feeling like you've known them forever. Not just a connection, something deeper. As if there was an unfinished sentence between your souls that's finally being picked up mid-thought. You try to explain it away. Chemistry, coincidence, déjà vu. But inside, something stirs. Something ancient. A knowing that defies reason. Or maybe it's a place, a town you've never visited, but that makes your heart ache with nostalgia the moment you arrive. A scent in the air that makes your skin prickle. A street corner that feels like it's waiting for you. These are not hallucinations. These are echoes. Your soul doesn't operate on a straight line. It is cyclical, recursive. It lives in spirals, returning again and again to unfinished lessons, unresolved attachments, forgotten truths. And while each life gives you a new body, a new name, and a new stage, the energy of your past lives doesn't disappear. It lingers, it follows. It imprints itself into the very fabric of your being, not as conscious memory, but as emotional residue. These are the karmic fingerprints you carry, and they show up not to haunt you, but to remind you. You don't remember your past lives in vivid detail for the same reason you don't remember being born into this one. The veil of forgetting protects the integrity of the experience. If you remembered too much, you couldn't fully engage with the now. But forgetting doesn't mean erasure. Your body remembers, your dreams remember, your soul remembers, and every now and then, something slips through, a flash of emotion that feels too big for the moment. A dream that feels more like a memory, a phobia you've had since childhood that makes no sense based on anything you've experienced here. That's not random, that's echo, and those echoes, they're intelligent. They surface at specific moments, not to confuse you, but to offer you another chance. A chance to see something differently this time. A chance to choose love where you once chose fear, to release where you once clung, to forgive where you once condemned. That's karma, not punishment, not reward, but opportunity. Energy that loops until it transforms. And every lifetime gives you the chance to shape that energy into something new. Have you ever noticed the patterns in your relationships? The roles you keep falling into, the dynamics that repeat across different people, the way you attract the same kind of wound in different faces? That's not because you're cursed or broken. It's because something unresolved is trying to be seen through a new lens. Many of the people in your life now have walked beside you before. You've played out different roles with them, parent, child, lover, enemy, friend, and you've come together again, not by accident, but by contract. Before entering this life, your soul made agreements, contracts forged in the space between worlds. Not contracts of fate, but of growth. You agreed to meet certain souls at certain points to help each other evolve. And when the time is right, those souls appear. Sometimes, it's gentle. Other times, it's messy, painful, life-altering. But always, it's sacred. Because nothing accelerates awakening like a soul mirror reflecting you back to yourself. These soul contracts are the hidden architecture behind many of the most intense experiences in your life. The love that felt cosmic, the betrayal that broke you open, the stranger who said exactly what you needed to hear, then disappeared. These aren't random interactions. They are orchestrated encounters, some lasting a moment, some a lifetime, designed to activate something dormant inside of you. You don't always recognize them right away, but your soul does. That flutter in your chest, that jolt of familiarity, that unspoken bond you can't explain. All of it is part of the deeper remembering. The echoes of who you were don't just show up in people and places. They also appear in your passions, your gifts, your deep, inexplicable interests. Ever been drawn to a particular culture, language, or time period without knowing why? Ever picked up a skill unnaturally fast, as if you were remembering it more than learning it? These are soul imprints, traces of previous lives leaving fingerprints on this one. You didn't start from zero, you carried threads with you, and sometimes those threads tug. Even your wounds carry echoes. The fear that grips you without reason, the emotional reaction that seems disproportionate, the belief that you're not safe, even when everything says you are. These may not originate here. They may be fragments from another lifetime bleeding into this one, asking to be acknowledged, integrated, released. Healing in this life doesn't just clear present pain, it dissolves patterns that have followed you for centuries. Your soul is multidimensional. It is not bound by this timeline, and while the veil of this realm is thick, it is not impenetrable. Dreams become portals, meditation becomes a bridge. Even silence, when truly embraced, becomes a doorway through which echoes from the past can reach you. And when they do, it's not to distract you from your current life, but to deepen your understanding of it. To remind you that everything happening now is part of something much larger, something ancient and intelligent that stretches far beyond what your current senses can comprehend. The illusion of isolation is strong here. It tells you that you are alone, that you are starting from scratch, that everything is meaningless coincidence. But the deeper you go, the more you begin to see that everything is connected, not just in theory, but in design. This life is not your first chapter, it's a continuation. And the strange moments of familiarity you encounter are the places where your past and present intersect, offering you a thread, a glimpse, a choice. You're not just here to survive this life, you're here to remember what it took lifetimes to forget, to reclaim the fragments of your souls scattered across time, to answer the questions you once left unasked, to complete the stories that never had endings. You are not who you were, but who you are still echoes inside who you are becoming. So pay attention to the things that tug at your spirit. Pay attention to the people who feel like home, even if you've just met. Pay attention to the places that stir something ancient in your bones. These are not distractions. They are maps. Maps written in the ink of remembrance, guiding you back to the truth that has followed you through every lifetime. You are not just living a life, you are living many at once. And every now and then, the veil ripples, and a piece of your soul calls back. Listen. Spirituality narrations said, what if I told you that the world you touch, taste, see, and move through every day isn't as solid as it seems? That this physical life, the one you've been taught, is the only real thing, is more illusion than reality, more dream than destination. You've been conditioned to believe in what you can see and measure. Concrete, tangible, physical. But peel back even one layer, and you'll discover a truth that both science and spirituality have whispered for centuries. This world is not what it looks like, not even close. You wake up each morning to a world that feels undeniably real. The floor beneath your feet feels solid, the air in your lungs feels vital, the objects around you respond exactly as you expect them to. You eat, you walk, you hold the hands of those you love. It all feels grounded in certainty, but that certainty is an illusion, a trick of perception. And you've been playing along because you were taught to believe in the dream. But quantum physics, a field known for unsettling even the most logical minds, tells a very different story. At its most fundamental level, everything you believe to be solid is made of atoms. These atoms, once thought to be the tiniest indivisible units of matter, are actually made of subatomic particles that themselves are not solid things. They are vibrations, frequencies, clouds of probability. When scientists began peering deep into the atom, they discovered something startling. 99.99% of it is empty space. That's not a metaphor. It's reality. The chair you sit on? Almost entirely space. Your body? The same. The illusion of solidity is nothing more than the result of energy vibrating in patterns so consistent, so reliable, that your senses interpret it as form. But what if form isn't what's real? What if what you see as physical is just a projection of something deeper, a vibrational echo cast into a dense field of experience, so your soul could interact with it more tangibly? In that sense, this world is a hologram, a hyper-real dream rendered from a deeper source, a spiritual algorithm designed not to imprison you, but to teach you. The physical world feels real not because it is real, but because you are inside it, immersed in it, perceiving it from within the very system that was built to feel solid. Mystics from every tradition have spoken about this for thousands of years, that the physical plane is the densest of all realms, the slowest frequency on the ladder of consciousness, that it is a mirror, a canvas, a training ground, but not the source. You weren't born into reality, you were born through it, into a symbolic, vibrational playground that mimics the real, so that you can grow, choose, and awaken. And here's the twist. Everything in this realm obeys the laws of vibration, not matter. Emotion is vibration. Thought is vibration. Words are vibration. You're not walking through a world of things, you're walking through a world of frequencies. And the frequency you emit, through your beliefs, your feelings, your intentions, interacts with this vibrational field in real time. That's why your mindset matters. That's why synchronicity increases when you're present. That's why manifestation works, not as magic, but as mechanics. You are tuning into realities that already exist within the infinite spectrum of vibration. You've been taught to trust what your five senses tell you, but those senses are limited instruments. They only perceive a narrow band of what's actually there. Like a radio that only picks up one station while infinite others hum just beyond its range. Right now, there are colors your eyes can't see, sounds your ears can't hear, frequencies your body can't yet decode, but they're here. Just because you can't sense them doesn't mean they're not real. In fact, some of the most real aspects of existence are the ones you can't touch. Think about it. Love is real, but can you hold it? Thought is real, but where is it located? Time is felt, but not seen. The most meaningful experiences in your life, grace, connection, awe, grief, inspiration, are not material. They are energetic, vibrational, and this entire world operates the same way. The trees, the sky, the buildings, they exist, yes, but not as hard matter. They are energy taking form, temporary forms, changeable forms, and just like a dream, they shift with your awareness. The deeper truth is, you are not in the world is in you, not your personality, not your body, but your consciousness. Consciousness is not the result of your brain, it's the other way around. Your brain is the receiver, the filter. You, the true you, exist beyond form, beyond time. You are the awareness inside the dream. And the dream itself, the physical world, is a sandbox your soul uses to explore ideas, play out karmic threads, and refine its frequency. You've probably felt it before, even if you couldn't explain it. Those moments when the world seems to flicker, when time feels off, when everything slows down or speeds up or becomes strangely synchronized. That's not imagination. That's perception, catching up to truth. It's your inner awareness starting to see the cracks in the illusion. Starting to question why things don't always behave the way they should. That's a sign that your consciousness is expanding beyond the projected world of form and beginning to sense the source behind it. This realm is not trying to deceive you, it's trying to initiate you. Every obstacle you face here isn't about the obstacle itself, it's about what it reveals in you. Every object, every person, every emotion is a symbol in this dream. And when you begin to see form as symbol, you stop reacting blindly, you start reading the code. That's when you start to shift the dream from the inside out. That's when you remember that you are not a prisoner here, you are a participant. And you have far more influence than you've been led to believe. The rules of the physical world are not fixed laws, they are agreements. Agreements held together by collective belief. When enough of us agree that something is possible, it becomes so. That's how paradigms shift, that's how science evolves, that's how spiritual breakthroughs occur. You are not just a witness to this illusion, you are a co-creator. Your attention is currency, your belief is code. Your vibration is a vote in the collective frequency we all share. The illusion of form is seductive because it gives you something to push against, it gives you contrast. and contrast sharpens awareness. But once you see through the illusion, you gain something even greater: the ability to navigate the dream without getting lost in it. To experience everything: pain, joy, loss, beauty, while knowing none of it can touch the core of who you really are. So when the world feels heavy, when the objects around you feel like walls, when your circumstances feel unchangeable, remember this: nothing here is fixed. Everything is frequency. And the only thing truly real is your awareness, that spark behind your eyes, that stillness beneath your thoughts, that presence that watches it all unfold without flinching. That is what you are, and that has never been of this world. You are walking through a projection, a vibrational rendering of a realm built to feel real enough to matter, but fluid enough to change. And the moment you stop worshipping the form and start listening to the frequency beneath it, the illusion begins to bend. Not because you're escaping the dream, but because you're finally awake inside it. What if I told you that the person responsible for every twist in your life story, the strange synchronicities, the painful triggers, the uncanny repetitions, isn't some outside force, isn't karma punishing you, isn't a cruel universe throwing dice, but you? Not the you others see, not the personality that wears your name and face, but the deeper self that exists beyond time and memory, the soul, the architect, the divine dreamer. Because here's a truth most aren't ready to hear: you designed this realm. Every pattern, every coincidence, every heartbreak was chosen, not to break you, but to wake you. This isn't random, none of it is. The people you're drawn to, the ones you clash with, the moments that make you question your own sanity, the repetitive loops you can't seem to escape, all of it was embedded into your experience with precision. Not as punishment, but as curriculum. You set this all in motion, not from a place of ego, but from a place of infinite knowing. Because before you arrived in this dreamlike realm we call life, you knew exactly what your soul needed to evolve. You knew what stories would crack you open, what triggers would reveal your blind spots, what echoes would lead you back to remembrance. You see, you are both the actor and the playwright, the protagonist and the pen. You are inside the story, but you are also writing it as you go. That's the paradox. That's the brilliance. Life feels unscripted, yet it follows a rhythm you recognize in your bones. How can that be? Because you're not just reacting to life, you're collaborating with it. At every moment, your consciousness is in dialogue with the reality you helped construct. And though you may not remember crafting the architecture, you feel it, deep in those moments that feel too meaningful to be chance. The idea that life is happening to you is one of the greatest illusions of this realm. It keeps you small, powerless, but once you begin to question that narrative, cracks begin to form. You start to see that what shows up in your life mirrors what's hidden in you. The patterns you face aren't enemies, they're reflections, designed by you, for you. That difficult person? They're holding up a mirror to a part of you you've ignored. That painful loss? It's pulling you deeper into something you've resisted feeling. That moment of synchronicity? It's you tapping yourself on the shoulder, saying, remember, this world isn't random, it's symbolic, and symbolism is the language of the soul. You didn't just design this world with logic, you designed it with meaning, with sacred geometry, with energetic signatures that would guide you through the fog of forgetting. Because you knew that once you arrived here, stripped of memory, veiled by form, you'd need breadcrumbs. And so you left them. In songs that stir your soul, in places that feel like home without reason, in numbers that chase you through time, in dreams that whisper truths your waking mind isn't ready to hear. And yes, it feels real, it feels hard, because you made it that way. You didn't come here for comfort, you came here for growth. Souls don't evolve in ease, they evolve in fire. And so, you gave yourself just enough resistance to provoke the awakening, just enough pain to shake the slumber, just enough mystery to make you search. But you also gave yourself keys, intuitive hunches, unexplainable knowings, sacred connections that would serve as reminders that you're not lost, you're remembering. Have you noticed how the same challenges show up again and again, wearing different faces? You meet a different partner, but the same wound reappears. You take a new job, but the same conflict arises. That's not failure, that's design. You wrote these cycles into your script not to trap yourself, but to highlight the lesson your soul is most hungry to learn. Every time you choose differently, more compassion, more presence, more truth, you rewrite the next chapter, because this isn't a fixed fate, it's a living manuscript, and you are both inside the story and above it. The architect in you didn't just create the trials, it also created the synchronicities, the moments of magic, the breathless alignments that make you pause and wonder if something bigger is guiding you. Something is, and that something is you. You, from a higher vantage point. You, beyond the illusion of time. These moments aren't lucky. They're encoded. You put them there, like stars to navigate by in the darkest night. And the more you awaken to your role as architect, the more frequent these moments become. Why? Because you're no longer walking the path blindly. You're seeing the structure. You're recognizing the symbols you planted for yourself long ago. And let's not forget the emotional architecture, the feelings you can't explain, the irrational fears, the inexplicable joys. These, too, are part of the design. You gave yourself specific emotional triggers so that you'd be forced to feel your way through the illusion, not just think through it. Thinking alone can be manipulated, but feeling, that's sacred. That's honest. When you feel grief that pierces through lifetimes, or joy that doesn't match the moment, you're touching layers of your soul's deeper narrative. And in those moments, you get a glimpse of the architect's blueprint. Even your dreams, the ones you have while asleep, are realms you built, training grounds, symbolic classrooms. You move through them each night, working out energetic tangles, receiving messages, recalibrating your path. And when you wake, fragments of those dreams leak through, often dismissed, but always meaningful. That's you, again, reminding yourself that you are more than this waking identity. You are multidimensional. You are constructing reality from the inside out. To realize you are the architect is not an act of arrogance. It's an act of humility. Because it means taking full responsibility. It means no longer blaming the world for what shows up. It means understanding that every relationship, every limitation, every possibility is a doorway you placed in your own maze. And the moment you stop waiting for something outside of you to rescue you, and instead begin to listen to the quiet knowing that has followed you since birth, the dream begins to shift. This world is malleable, fluid, dreamlike, and you are not stuck, you are sculpting. Every choice you make carves a new path. Every belief you hold reconfigures the landscape. That's the power of the architect. Not control, but co-creation. And when you align with the part of you that remembers, everything begins to move with you. People show up who carry the next clue. Events unfold with uncanny precision. Life begins to feel like a dance rather than a battle. So, if you're walking through a hard chapter right now, don't curse it. Examine it. Ask what it's trying to reveal. Ask what part of you wrote this scene, and why. Because there is always a why, and it's not punishment, it's invitation. You designed this moment, just like you designed the breakthrough waiting on the other side of it. You are not here by accident. You are not powerless. You are not lost. You are the one who built this. And you are the only one who can reimagine it. Not through force, but through remembrance. Not through perfection, but through presence. Because the dream changes the moment the dreamer becomes lucid. And you, slowly, gently, are waking up to the architect you've always been. What if I told you that every loss you've ever endured wasn't meant to destroy you, but to open you? That the ache in your chest, the tears that come without warning, the emptiness that feels like it might swallow you whole, are not signs of brokenness, but signs of contact. Not the absence of love, but its transformation. You were never meant to remain untouched by death. You came into this dream knowing it would visit you, but you also knew something else, that on the other side of that heartbreak, if you could stay with it, something sacred would begin to speak. Grief is the one experience that slices through all the roles you play. It doesn't care who you think you are. It doesn't wait for you to be ready. It comes like a force of nature, tearing away the illusion of control, of certainty, of permanence. And in that tearing, something strange begins to happen. You begin to feel, not just emotionally, but spiritually. You begin to sense the thinness of this world, how quickly everything can vanish, how suddenly everything can shift. That awareness is not meant to terrify you, it's meant to awaken you, because every loss is a crack in the dream, a rupture in the simulation, a moment when the veil thins just enough for the truth to shine through. When someone you love dies, the world doesn't just feel different, it is different. It shifts. It becomes quieter in strange places, louder in others. Certain objects seem to hold more weight. Their scent lingers in the air long after it should have faded. Their voice echoes in your mind at impossible moments. You may think you're imagining things, you're not. You're feeling the ripple. When a soul leaves the physical body, they don't vanish. They shift dimensions. They return to a realm that overlaps this one, always within reach, but rarely perceived through ordinary means. And yet, there are moments when you feel them, in a dream that feels too vivid to dismiss, in a breeze that brushes your face with a softness that brings you to tears, in the flicker of a light that's never flickered before, in the song that comes on at just the right moment, the number that keeps appearing, the bird that lands just outside your window when you're thinking of them. These aren't coincidences, they are contact, and they are real. You've been taught that death is the end, that once someone leaves their body, they are gone, far away, unreachable. But the truth is more mysterious than that. When someone you love passes on, the bond you share doesn't dissolve. It evolves. Their energy no longer moves through form, it moves through frequency, through thought, through memory, through dreams. And if your heart remains open, through the pain, through the numbness, through the confusion, you can still feel them, not as ghosts, but as presence, as love without form, as consciousness that no longer wears a body, but still chooses to reach you. You may not have the words for it, but you know when it's real. You know when a dream visitation isn't just a dream. The way it feels different, the way you wake up with tears on your face and peace in your chest. You remember their touch, their voice. You feel the warmth that lingers like sunlight. These dreams are not fantasy. They are meetings, visits in the space between dimensions, when your mind quiets enough for your soul to receive. The departed are not trying to haunt you. They're trying to remind you that nothing real can ever be lost. Sometimes, it's not a dream, but a sudden knowing. You hear their words in your thoughts, not remembered, but newly spoken. You sense their hand on your shoulder. You feel their protection when you walk into danger and leave unharmed. This isn't imagination, it's continuation. The relationship hasn't ended, it's changed form. And if you can learn to listen with your heart instead of your ears, you'll realize they're still here. But why does it hurt so much? Because the pain is proof of love. It's the soul's way of saying, this mattered. Grief only cuts deep when love ran deep. And that pain, raw, unbearable as it can be, is also the portal. Because in grief, the mind surrenders. It stops pretending it knows how things work. It stops clinging to the illusion that time is long and life is guaranteed. And in that surrender, something sacred slips through. Your defenses drop, your awareness expands, and for the first time in a long time, you become available to feel, not just the loss, but the presence that remains. Loss is not a punishment, it is a message. It reminds you of the impermanence of form and the eternity of essence. The people you've lost are not gone, they are simply no longer confined by flesh. They are free, and sometimes they are freer to reach you now than they ever were in life. The ego may resist that truth. It wants the physical, the hugs, the sound of their laugh, the comfort of presence, and there's no shame in that longing. But if you can sit inside the ache without numbing it, it will eventually begin to transform, not into forgetfulness, but into reverence. The soul knows how to communicate without words, and those you've lost are not just resting somewhere far away. They're still part of your journey, still offering signs, still helping shape your path in subtle ways. Some of the ideas that pop into your mind out of nowhere, they may not be yours. They may be whispers from a loved one gently nudging you. Some of the protection you felt during dangerous moments? It might be them, watching from just beyond the veil. And some of the choices that led to your greatest growth, they may have been orchestrated with help from the other side. In this dream we call life, death appears final, but that's only because we see with human eyes. The soul sees differently. It knows that everything here is temporary but nothing is wasted. It understands that loss is not absence, it's transition. And when the pain breaks you open, it also breaks open your awareness. That's why grief can feel so mystical. It bends time. It makes you feel both far away and deeply present. It reminds you that love cannot die, only change shape. If you've lost someone, know this. You haven't lost the most important part of them. The essence, the connection. That still exists. And if you quiet your mind, open your heart, and allow yourself to believe, even just a little, you'll begin to feel them again. Maybe not every day, maybe not always clearly, but in the ways that matter, in the ways that remind you that life isn't measured in heartbeats, it's measured in presence, in impact, in energy, and energy doesn't end, it only transforms. So the next time you feel that sudden wave of emotion for no apparent reason, the next time you hear their favorite song out of nowhere, the next time you feel like someone is with you in a quiet room, you're not imagining it, you're remembering. You're sensing what has always been true, that those we love never leave us. They simply change the way they walk beside us. And the pain you feel? It's not a sign of their absence, it's a sign of their depth, a sacred wound that keeps the doorway open, a reminder that you are still connected, always, forever, just in a different form. What if I told you that everything you believe about time is backwards? That what you think of as past, present, and future aren't a line you're walking along, but a spiral you're spinning within. You've been taught that time moves forward, minute by minute, hour by hour, year by year. You've been taught that the past is fixed, the present is fleeting, and the future is unwritten. But what if none of that is true? What if time doesn't actually flow, it folds? What if the ticking of the clock is not a measurement of reality, but a mechanism of the dream? You've felt it before. The moments when time stretches and slows, when an instant feels eternal, or when hours disappear in a breath. You've lived the strange sensation of déjà vu, of remembering something that hasn't happened yet. You've dreamed of places you've never seen, only to recognize them years later. These are not glitches. These are cracks in the illusion of linear time. And they're everywhere, if you stop long enough to notice them. Time, as you experience it here, is not a natural law. It's a framework, a lens, a way for your consciousness to experience growth in digestible, sequential pieces. Like chapters in a book, one page after another, giving the illusion of movement and structure. But what if the entire book already exists? What if every chapter, past, present, and future, is already written, and your awareness is simply moving through them in the order best suited for your soul's evolution? That's the secret time keeps from you. It's not linear, it's layered, circular, spiral-shaped. Everything is happening at once, in the eternal now. Your birth, your death, your greatest joy, your deepest heartbreak, they all exist as simultaneous frequencies in the infinite field of consciousness. Your soul doesn't experience time the way your mind does. Your soul sees all of it at once. It holds the entire spiral, and from that higher vantage point, it chooses which part of the spiral to focus on, depending on what you're ready to integrate. This is why some memories haunt you even though they're decades old, why some wounds still bleed even after years, why some dreams feel like previews of what's to come. Your soul doesn't divide experience into past and future. It experiences everything through vibration, through meaning. And in this dream world, time is bent to serve you. It shows up in sequence, not because it is linear, but because that's how your human mind processes growth. You came into this reality with a veil, a filter, a limitation that helps you learn, and time is part of that filter. But there are moments when the filter slips, when your consciousness stretches just far enough to touch the spiral, a thought about someone who calls you seconds later, a sense of urgency for no reason, only to find out something significant just happened across the world. A feeling that something has already happened, even though your timeline says otherwise. These are echoes, feedback from the spiral. They remind you that you are not walking through time. Time is unfolding around you. Dreams are perhaps the clearest window into this truth. In dreams, time loses its grip. You jump from one scene to the next without transition. Events happen out of order. You meet people from the past and the future as if they coexist. And when you wake up, something lingers, the sense that you've seen something real, even if it doesn't make sense in the daylight. That's not imagination. That's you stepping outside of time. That's your soul playing with the spiral. And it's not just in dreams. Time slips in waking life, too. Have you ever had a conversation that felt predestined? A chance encounter that seemed impossibly timed? An insight that changed your life, arriving in an instant, as if delivered from another version of you? That's not luck, that's alignment. That's your soul nudging you toward a point on the spiral where your awareness is ready to expand. And the more you pay attention, the more the spiral reveals itself. There are parts of you that already exist in what you call the future, versions of yourself that have healed what you're struggling with, learned what you're still seeking, awakened to truths you've only begun to glimpse. These versions of you are not figments of imagination, they are real, existing simultaneously, vibrating at a frequency your current self is slowly moving toward. And just as you can remember the past, you can tune into the future, not to predict it, but to feel it, to collaborate with it, to pull it closer through intention and alignment. When you realize that time spirals, you stop rushing. You stop fearing that you're running out of time. You stop believing that the best has passed, or that the worst is set in stone. You start to understand that every moment, every single one, is alive with possibility. You can revisit old wounds and heal them anew. You can call in future outcomes by embodying their frequency now. You can receive wisdom from your past lives, because those lives are not behind you. They are parallel expressions of your consciousness, and they're still speaking, still echoing, still shaping the now. This changes everything. It means healing is not bound by time. You can forgive someone who's already passed, and it still shifts the energy. You can send love to your childhood self, and that child still feels it. You can make a different choice today and ripple that shift across your entire spiral of existence. Because energy doesn't respect the boundaries of the clock, it moves where it's invited, it reshapes the spiral in real time. And here's where it gets even deeper. The events that you think are coming in the future are already energetically real. They exist as possibilities, each vibrating at a certain frequency. The version of you who lives that reality is already alive within the field. But in order to experience it, you must match that frequency. That's the mechanics of manifestation. You don't create the future from scratch. You choose it by becoming the version of you who already lives it. This is why intention matters, why awareness matters. Because the spiral responds to vibration, not effort. It doesn't ask what you want, it reflects what you are. And when your vibration shifts, through healing, through presence, through alignment, the spiral responds. Realities collapse and reassemble. Timelines merge and diverge. The future bends to meet you where you are. Not because time is linear, but because you've remembered that it isn't. You are not a prisoner of time. You are the one shaping how you move through it. Every loop, every déjà vu, every synchronicity is a doorway into the spiral. A reminder that the script isn't fixed, that you are not bound to who you've been, that you are not separate from who you will be. You are the thread weaving all these moments together, and the more lucid you become, the more fluid time becomes. So, the next time time bends, when the moment stretches or repeats, when the same numbers follow you, when a memory comes alive with new meaning, don't brush it off, don't rationalize it away. Sit with it, feel it, because in that moment, something profound is happening. You are being shown the spiral. You are being reminded that time is not your master, it is your mirror, and what you do with that reflection is entirely up to you. What if I told you that the world around you isn't as fixed as you've been led to believe? That reality isn't something you simply observe, but something you participate in creating, moment by moment. What if your awareness doesn't just passively witness what happens, but actually influences it, shapes it, bends it into form? This isn't just spiritual philosophy. It's embedded in the very fabric of how the universe operates. You are not merely a character in this story, you're the author. Not a visitor to reality, a creator inside of it. And the more you realize this, the more the veil begins to lift. There's a principle in quantum physics that mystics and sages have known intuitively for centuries. It's called the observer effect. In its simplest form, it tells us that the act of observing a particle changes its behavior. Scientists have found that subatomic particles exist in a state of probability, waves of potential, until someone observes them. Once observed, the wave collapses into a single point, a definite form. In other words, your awareness transforms possibilities into reality. Your attention is not neutral, it's a force, a directive. It tells the field of infinite potential. This is real. This is where I choose to place my energy. If this is true on the quantum level, it's true everywhere, because everything is made of energy. The chair you sit in, the sky above you, your own body. All of it is composed of vibrating particles held together by energetic relationships. That means reality doesn't exist independent of you. It responds to you. Every thought, every emotion, every focus of your awareness sends a signal into the field, and the field responds by organizing itself around your frequency. This is why your beliefs are so powerful, not because they are nice affirmations, but because they are instructions. They program the probabilities you interact with. Think of life as a sea of unformed clay. The clay is neutral. It holds every possibility: joy, sorrow, opportunity, stagnation, healing, chaos. Your consciousness is the hand that shapes it. And every moment you spend paying attention to something, whether it's fear, gratitude, frustration, or love, you're sculpting. You're giving that frequency form. This is why worry creates more things to worry about, why gratitude opens doors, why focus isn't just a mental tool, it's a vibrational code. What you focus on, you empower. What you resist, you amplify. And what you love, you call closer. You've been taught that reality is out there, and that you're simply reacting to it. But the truth is, you live in a co-creative field that mirrors your consciousness back to you. It's a feedback loop. Your inner state shapes your outer experience, and your outer experience reinforces your inner state until you intervene, until you become aware. Awareness is the master key. Because, when you're unaware, you're operating on old programs, subconscious beliefs, conditioned responses, and the field simply reflects them, without question. But when you wake up, when you bring awareness to the present moment, when you consciously direct your attention, you start writing new code. Every time you become aware of a limiting belief, you weaken its hold. Every time you choose presence over autopilot, you shift the frequency you're broadcasting. And when your frequency shifts, your reality follows. This isn't magic, it's mechanics. The universe isn't personal, it's precise. It doesn't give you what you want, it gives you what you are. Not in words, but in vibration. And vibration speaks louder than intention. You might say you want peace, but if you're vibrating with tension, the field responds to that tension. You might dream of abundance, but if your energy is wrapped in fear, that fear becomes the filter through which reality forms. This is why spiritual practices matter. Not because they make you more holy, but because they tune your vibration. Meditation isn't about escaping life, it's about mastering presence. Breathwork isn't about control, it's about coherence. Gratitude isn't sentimental, it's magnetic. These are tools that shift your energy, and when your energy shifts, your timeline shifts. You begin to see opportunities you couldn't see before. People start responding to you differently. Synchronicities multiply. Not because the world has changed, but because your vibration has. And here's the paradox. The more you awaken to your power, the less you need to force anything. Creation becomes less about effort and more about alignment. You stop chasing outcomes and start aligning with frequencies. You become more attuned to what feels resonant, what feels expansive, and you trust that by holding your vibration steady, the field will organize itself accordingly. This is not passivity, it's mastery. You're not surrendering control, you're stepping into a higher kind of influence, one that doesn't manipulate the external, but magnetizes the internal. This is why certain people seem to walk through life with ease, why some attract abundance, love, or clarity seemingly without effort. It's not that they are lucky. It's that they have become conscious of the field. They know that reality bends around belief, that the future is not a destination, but a frequency. And they tune themselves daily. They become deliberate in thought, in feeling, in presence. And the field responds accordingly. But here's the deeper truth. You've always been creating, even when you didn't know it. Your life, up until now, has been a reflection of your unconscious settings. The stories you inherited, the fears you absorbed, the assumptions you never questioned. The field didn't judge those things, it simply reflected them. But now you know. Now you're aware. And that changes everything, because with awareness comes choice. And with choice comes creation. Every moment is a fork in the road. Every breath is a new beginning. You're not bound to your past. You're not locked into your patterns. The field doesn't hold grudges, it only mirrors. So if you change your frequency, right now, the next moment will be shaped by it. You are that powerful. Your attention is that potent. Your awareness is the sculptor of the unseen. So, if you've been waiting for your life to change, for the universe to shift, for reality to finally align with your dreams, look within. Don't wait for something outside of you to move. Move your awareness. Shift your vibration. Choose a new lens. Because when you do, the field will echo back your choice in ways that feel like magic, but are simply mechanics. You are not a visitor in this world. You are a participant, a composer, a creator, and the hidden mechanics of reality are not hidden at all. They are waiting inside of you, activated every time you decide to see, to feel, to align. The world you see is not what's real. The you who sees it is. And the more that you remember this, the more fluid the dream becomes. Not because the game has changed, but because the player has awakened. What if I told you that not everyone you meet in this life is who, or what, they seem to be? Have you ever locked eyes with a stranger and felt an eerie emptiness? Or spoken to someone whose words sounded right, but something underneath felt scripted? These moments make you pause. They stir a subtle discomfort in you, as if a deeper part of you is whispering, "Pay attention." And maybe it's time you did. Because in this dreamlike realm, not every character is what you think. Some are real souls, here, just like you, evolving, remembering. Others? They're something else entirely. This may be difficult to hear, but not all the people you encounter are conscious beings in the way you are. Some are reflections, projections, placeholders. Some are constructs. Think of it like a dream. When you dream at night, there are people in your dream. Some feel vivid and real, while others feel flat, hollow, or overly simplistic. That's because your consciousness populates your dreams with both representations and fragments. Your psyche builds characters to play out certain emotions, lessons, or symbols. In the same way, this life, the waking dream, is populated with what could be called soul actors and dream constructs. Soul actors are like you, sovereign consciousness inhabiting form. They are dreaming this reality from their own center of awareness. When you meet one, you often feel a spark, a depth. Even in conflict, there's aliveness, unpredictability, growth. These beings challenge you, awaken you, and evolve with you. They hold mirrors up to your blind spots, and offer insights you couldn't reach alone. Encounters with soul actors are rich, even when painful. You feel their presence, their weight in the field. These are the people who stick with you, who stir something ancient inside you, who help you remember. But then there are others, the ones who feel flat, almost like they're reciting lines. People who trigger you, but not in a way that deepens your awareness, in a way that feels shallow, mechanical, lifeless. People who seem to drift through life without any real connection, curiosity, or soul behind the eyes. It's not that they're evil or wrong, it's that they may not be real in the way you think. They may be constructs, energetic placeholders generated by the field to populate your environment, test your patterns, or amplify your lessons. Their purpose isn't to evolve, it's to serve as scenery, as setup, as catalysts. This isn't meant to create separation or superiority, it's meant to shift your awareness, because when you begin to see the dream for what it is, you stop taking everything so personally. That rude stranger at the coffee shop? Maybe not a soul, but a reflection of your own repressed emotion. That shallow coworker who always seems to sabotage your peace? Maybe a construct repeating until you respond differently. That person you've known forever who never seems to grow, who just cycles the same surface-level dramas. Maybe a background actor in your soul's story, there to hold the same line until you rewrite the script. This doesn't mean they don't matter. Everything in the dream has value. But not everything has depth. Some characters are there to challenge you, others to support you, and still others to test whether you've truly learned what you say you have. They mirror the old version of you so that you can see how far you've come, or where you're still stuck. And sometimes, you'll meet a being who only exists in your reality. Not because they are fake, but because they are symbolic, an energetic construct tailor-made for your evolution, like a teacher in a lucid dream who disappears the moment you awaken. Think about your own life, the people who felt like turning points, the ones who showed up at the perfect time, delivered a lesson, then vanished. Or the ones who repeated the same pattern no matter what you did. It's not random, it's design. You are walking through a holographic field of consciousness, and that field is intelligent. It organizes your interactions based on what you need to remember. Not all characters are permanent. Some are seasonal, some are symbolic, some are tests wearing human faces, and then there are the anomalies. People who feel half awake, who seem to glitch, who say things that don't match the energy behind them. You might dismiss it as social awkwardness, or personality, or projection, but what if it's more than that? What if some of these figures aren't meant to be fully interactive? What if they're like dream constructs, sufficient from a distance, but shallow up close? You've met them, people who disappear when you stop looking, who only seem to function in your presence. These are not coincidences. They are part of the dream matrix, not evil, not robotic, just empty of sovereign awareness. Now, here's where it gets deeper. Some constructs eventually become conscious. Just like in dreams, some background figures suddenly become vivid, lucid, aware. That's because your awareness affects them. You influence the field, and by holding a high enough frequency of presence, love, or clarity, you can awaken dormant parts of the dream. Sometimes, a person who once seemed shallow begins to deepen, to wake up. And in those moments, you're not just dreaming, you're reshaping the dream. This is not about deciding who's real and who's not. That's not your job. It's about recognizing patterns, feeling the difference between soul-deep interactions and surface simulations. Trusting your intuition when something feels hollow, even if it looks normal. And more importantly, it's about remembering that you are surrounded by symbols at all times. The universe speaks in archetypes, metaphors, reflections. You don't need to know whether someone is a soul actor or a construct. You only need to ask, what are they showing me? What energy do they stir? What part of me are they reflecting back? And sometimes, the answer is nothing. Sometimes the person exists simply to fill a space, to keep the illusion cohesive, like extras in a movie, necessary for atmosphere, but not critical to the plot. That's okay. You don't need everyone to be significant. You only need to be awake enough to tell the difference. Once you start seeing this, the dream changes. You stop engaging with everything emotionally. You conserve your energy. You realize not every battle is yours to fight. Not every person is yours to fix. Not every character deserves a starring role in your consciousness. Some are just part of the backdrop, and in that realization, you gain freedom. You stop chasing depth in shallow places. You stop trying to awaken those who are not ready. You stop taking things personally when someone can't meet you where you are. Instead, you become curious, discerning, lucid. You choose your responses. You refine your vibration, and the field responds accordingly. Soul actors appear more often. Constructs fade into the background. The dream becomes clearer, richer, more aligned with your intention. This isn't about judgment, it's about discernment, about understanding that this realm is complex and multi-layered, and that your journey is too sacred to be hijacked by distraction. You came here to evolve, to remember, to wake up, and everything around you, every character, every interaction, every mirror, is designed to help you do that. So the next time someone feels off, the next time a conversation feels rehearsed, the next time you feel like you're speaking into an emotional void, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, what am I being shown? Because, in this dream, awareness is everything. And once you see the pattern, you're no longer bound by it. You're free to rewrite it. You're free to walk away. You're free to deepen or to detach. You are not just moving through the dream, you're waking up inside of it. And with each layer of illusion you peel away, you remember more of who you are, not just the dreamer, but the creator of what's next. What if I told you that the most frustrating parts of your life are not accidents or punishments, but invitations? That the loops you find yourself trapped in, the repeating relationships, the same emotional triggers, the situations that feel eerily familiar, aren't proof that something is wrong with you, but that something inside you is ready to awaken. This is one of the dream's deepest codes. When the lesson hasn't been learned, the pattern repeats, not to punish you, but to point you back toward awareness. Loops are not signs of failure. They are clues, echoes, spiritual breadcrumbs. You've likely noticed it. The same type of person keeps showing up in your relationships. The same conflict plays out, even with different faces. You leave one job to escape a toxic dynamic, only to find that the next one feels exactly the same. It's as if life is stuck on repeat. But here's the truth. It's not life that's repeating. It's you. Or rather, the unhealed part of you that still believes in the illusion. The loop exists because you haven't passed through it with clarity. You haven't yet seen what it's trying to show you, and until you do, it resets. This isn't cosmic cruelty. It's divine design. The dream is interactive, intelligent, and it knows that until you become lucid, until you wake up inside the pattern, you can't move beyond it. So, it gives you chances, many of them, with new faces, new contexts, new disguises, but the energy is always the same. It's not about the characters, it's about you. What part of your belief system is still creating this reality? What emotion is still unresolved? What old wound is still attracting the same reflection, hoping you'll finally see it, not suppress it? Imagine this realm as a spiritual school. Each pattern is a lesson, and each lesson repeats until you pass it. But passing doesn't mean escaping, it means integrating. It means seeing the illusion clearly enough to choose differently. The universe doesn't test you to watch you suffer. It tests you to activate your awareness. And once you see the loop, not just intellectually, but vibrationally, you collapse it. It no longer holds the same charge. The characters lose their grip, the scenario dissolves, and suddenly, what felt like fate becomes freedom. Let's take relationships, for example. You keep attracting emotionally unavailable partners, or people who make you feel small, or dynamics where you give and never receive. You think, why does this keep happening to me? But what if the better question is, what part of me still believes this is love? The loop continues not because you're doomed, but because your inner world still holds an old definition, an emotional imprint, a karmic echo. And until that imprint is seen, really seen, it keeps broadcasting its frequency into the field, and the field responds. The same applies to your career. You might keep ending up in jobs where you feel undervalued, overworked, unseen. You think, why can't I find something better? But the loop isn't about the job. It's about your sense of worth, your fear of stepping into your power, your attachment to playing it safe. The loop reflects the vibration you haven't upgraded yet, and it will continue to present itself, again and again, until you respond from a new level of consciousness. This is why awareness is everything. Most people don't recognize they're in a loop until it's too late. They blame others, they distract themselves, they numb the discomfort. But the ones who awaken are the ones who start to notice. They observe, without judgment. They ask, where have I felt this before? What belief is this reflecting? What part of me is still asleep here? And in that moment of inquiry, the loop begins to weaken. Because now you're not reacting, you're witnessing. And witnessing is the first step toward liberation. Loops can show up as people, places, patterns, or even thoughts. That voice in your head that always says you're not enough, that's a loop. That moment when you want to speak your truth, but you freeze, that's a loop. That sudden panic when things get good and you sabotage, loop. Each of these is a doorway. And on the other side is a version of you that no longer needs the repetition. A version of you that has remembered the truth. You are not the loop. You are the lucid one, waking up within it. Here's the paradox. The loop isn't trying to trap you. It's trying to free you. But it can only do that if you're willing to feel it, to sit with the discomfort, to trace it back to its root. Most people avoid this because it hurts. But pain is often the flashlight that shows you where the illusion lives. And when you lean into it, not to suffer, but to understand, it begins to unravel. Because no illusion can survive the light of awareness. And sometimes, the loop has nothing to do with this lifetime. Sometimes, it's a karmic echo, a soul-level pattern carried over from other incarnations. You may have vowed to never trust again, or carried guilt you didn't resolve, or held power you misused. And now, the loop returns, not to punish you, but to offer you another chance, another setup, another moment to choose differently. These are sacred contracts, soul-level agreements, and the sooner you remember that, the sooner you stop seeing life as random and start seeing it as initiation. Breaking a loop doesn't always mean changing the outside. Sometimes, the outer world stays the same, but your response changes. That's the real shift. The moment you no longer react from the wound. The moment you pause and breathe and choose from love instead of fear, that one decision collapses timelines. It rewrites the pattern. It signals to the field, I've learned, I'm ready, next level. And the field listens, always. This is how you graduate from the dream, not by escaping it, but by mastering it, by seeing the loops not as traps, but as teachers. Each one invites you into greater clarity. Each one mirrors the part of you that's still dreaming. And when you finally respond from the awakened self, from the observer, not the actor, the game changes. The loop ends. The next stage unfolds. You were never meant to stay stuck. You were meant to evolve. And evolution begins with awareness. So if you find yourself in yet another loop, another heartbreak, another disappointment, another repeating struggle, don't collapse into despair. Lean in. Ask the dream what it's trying to show you. Ask your soul what it still needs to integrate, and then listen, really listen. Because the moment you do, you begin to wake up, and once you're awake, the loop can no longer hold you. It dissolves. Because it was never real. It was only a reflection, waiting for you to remember who you are. What if I told you that the moment you've been waiting for isn't some grand external event? It's a shift that happens quietly, subtly, but with enough force to rewire your entire reality. That spiritual awakening isn't a final destination or a title you earn, but a moment, a single moment, when you stop reacting and start seeing. Most people think awakening is about acquiring something, enlightenment, peace, bliss, but it's not about getting anything. It's about remembering what was always there. Awakening is the moment you realize you're dreaming, and for the first time, you know it. In a dream, everything feels real until it doesn't. You run through landscapes, interact with people, experience drama, emotion, confusion, and then, suddenly, you become aware, this is a dream. In that instant, everything changes. Not because the dream disappears, but because your relationship to it shifts. You're no longer a character being tossed around by the script. You become the lucid one, the observer, the conscious participant. And that's exactly what spiritual awakening is in this realm. It's not about leaving the dream, it's about becoming lucid within it. Lucid dreaming gives you control over the dream world. Lucid living gives you mastery over this dimension. And the key isn't to fight the dream, but to see it. To stop confusing the illusion for the truth. To stop reacting to the script as if it's absolute. The moment you wake up, you realize, this world isn't as solid as you thought. Your thoughts aren't as random as you believed. And your emotions aren't just reactions. They're compasses, frequencies, indicators of alignment. You stop blaming the external. You stop searching for salvation outside yourself. Because now, you remember, the dream responds to you. This is why ancient teachings all point to self-awareness. Know thyself, be still, and know. The kingdom is within. These are not metaphors, they are mechanics. The more present you become, the more lucid your experience. The more you bring awareness to your breath, your thoughts, your choices, the more the illusion loosens its grip. The dream softens, the scenery shifts, synchronicities multiply, time bends, and you begin to dance with reality, not fight against it. Waking up doesn't mean the dream ends. It means you remember it's a dream, that life is a field of perception, not a fixed structure. And in that remembrance, you stop needing everything to make sense. You stop demanding permanence from impermanence. You stop trying to control every outcome. You begin to flow, to respond, to align. And paradoxically, that's when your life begins to change, radically. Because now you're not operating from fear or programming, you're choosing from presence. Spiritual practices are tools to help you reach this state. They aren't the awakening itself, they're the catalysts. Meditation quiets the noise so you can hear your soul. Breathwork brings you back to the body, which is the portal to presence. Mantras, prayer, movement, journaling, all of them are designed to dissolve the illusion layer by layer. They help you return to yourself, because the truth is, you were never really asleep. You were simply caught in identification, lost in character. You thought the dream was you, and that's the core of the illusion, forgetting. Forgetting that you are not the name, the job, the history, the personality. You are awareness itself, the formless witnessing the form, the dreamer inside the dream. And every time you remember, even for a breath, you re-enter the lucid state. The game slows down. The script becomes optional. You see the space between stimulus and response, and in that space, you create, intentionally, powerfully, lovingly. The moment you wake up, the rules change. Limitation no longer feels absolute. You begin to sense multiple possibilities in every moment. You stop clinging to outcomes and start aligning with frequencies. You realize that reality bends, not because you force it, but because you become congruent with your truth. This isn't about escaping pain or achieving perfection. It's about remembering your power, your clarity, your connection to something infinitely larger than the character you've been playing. In the lucid state, even suffering changes. You stop seeing it as punishment and start seeing it as a signal, a teacher, a call to return. Pain becomes less about the story and more about the dissonance between who you think you are and who you truly are. You don't bypass it, you move through it with presence, and presence transforms everything, because presence is truth. It's what remains when all illusions fall away. You may wonder, how do you know if you've truly awakened? The answer is simple: you stop asking that question, because once you're awake, you realize there's no end point. Awakening is not a box you check. It's a process, a spiraling return to awareness. Some days you're lucid, other days you slip back into the script. And that's okay. The point isn't to be perfect. It's to notice. The more often you catch yourself in the illusion, the less power it has over you. The more you remember the dream, the more fluid it becomes. And here's something profound. You waking up doesn't just change your life. It changes the dream itself. Your awareness ripples out. It affects the field. It inspires other souls to stir, to question, to remember. Your presence becomes a lighthouse. Not because you preach, but because you embody. The dream responds to frequency. And your frequency, when grounded in truth, shifts the entire simulation. This is why awakening matters. Not just for you, but for the whole. Every soul that wakes up strengthens the grid. Every act of lucidity weakens the illusion. And slowly, collectively, the dream begins to transform, becomes more conscious, more kind, more coherent. Because now, the dreamers are dreaming together, lucidly. You don't have to wait for some sign, some grand event. The moment you wake up is the moment you choose to be present, right here, right now, in this breath, in this feeling, in this choice. That's where your power lives, not in the future, not in some guru's words, but in your awareness of this moment, and the next, and the next. So, if you've been waiting to awaken, stop waiting. Just notice, observe, remember. Every moment is another chance to become lucid. Every breath is another opportunity to return to the center. You don't have to escape the dream, you just have to see it. Because once you see it for what it is, you stop being controlled by it. You start creating within it. And maybe that's the greatest awakening of all. Not that you transcend the dream, but that you master it. That you learn to walk it with eyes open, heart open, soul open, lucid, alive, free. What if I told you that the reason you're here has nothing to do with what you've been taught? That this place isn't the beginning of your journey, but a continuation, one that started long before you were born. You didn't come here to die. You came here because you already did. You crossed through a threshold that most people fear, and instead of disappearing into nothingness, you entered this dimension, this vibrational in-between, for one reason: to remember, not to survive, not to succeed, not to gather status, followers, or riches, but to awaken from the fog of forgetting and remember who you truly are. Beneath the name, the history, the personality, beyond the body, beyond the roles, you are awareness itself, an eternal presence inhabiting a temporary experience. This realm is not a punishment. It's not a mistake. It's a design, a test, a mirror. It exists to strip away everything you are not, so that what remains is the essence of what you've always been. When you arrived here, you carried nothing but your frequency. Your memories were veiled, your soul's history blurred, your true identity cloaked beneath layers of conditioning. Not because you were abandoned, but because you agreed to forget. Forgetting is part of the process. It creates the friction necessary for evolution, and evolution is why you came. Not the survival of your biology, but the evolution of your consciousness. The expansion of your awareness, through contrast, through pain, through pattern, through remembering. Every moment in this dream is laced with symbols meant to guide you home. Every hardship, every joy, every loss and longing, they are part of a curriculum tailored to your soul. You didn't come here by accident. You chose this plane with precision. You chose your family, your body, your timing, not because it would be easy, but because it would trigger what needed to be seen, because it would expose the illusions you still carried, because it would activate the parts of you that still needed healing, still needed reclaiming. And now, here you are, on the other side of death, walking in a world that pretends to be the beginning, but something inside you knows better. It always has. That subtle ache in your chest. That longing you can't explain. That sense that something is missing, even when everything looks fine. That's not dysfunction. That's memory. Your soul remembers. It remembers where it's been, what it's seen, what it came here to do. You didn't come to build a perfect life. You came to dismantle a false one. You came to peel away the layers of illusion, fear, scarcity, shame, identity, until only truth remains. You came to walk into the fire of forgetting and emerge awake, alive, free, not from death, but from illusion. Because once you remember who you are, death loses its meaning. It's no longer an end. It becomes a doorway, a return, a continuation. Think of this realm as a dream within a dream. The physical world is not the top layer of reality. It's the dream state your soul entered after crossing over. And just like a lucid dreamer becomes aware inside the dream, you are here to become conscious within the illusion, not to escape it, but to master it. To awaken in the middle of the test and remember, this is not who I am. This is not all there is. I am more. I have always been more. When you look at life through this lens, everything shifts. Pain is no longer senseless. It becomes a teacher. Struggle becomes initiation. Loss becomes recalibration. You begin to see that the universe isn't trying to hurt you. It's trying to refine you, to strip away the masks until your true face emerges, to stretch you beyond comfort until you remember the infinite being inside the temporary container. And that's the paradox. You didn't come here to become someone. You came here to unbecome everything you are not, to dissolve the false self, to disidentify from the roles, to remember what cannot be touched by time, death, or circumstance. That remembrance is the goal. Not enlightenment in some abstract sense, but rooted remembrance, in the body, in the breath, in the moment. A felt knowing, I am here, but not of here. I walk this world, but I come from somewhere beyond it. You've felt it, in quiet moments, in awe-struck beauty, in the silence after deep grief, in dreams that feel more real than waking life. These are flashes of the real, glimpses of your origin. The veil thins, and something ancient stirs in you. A voice that whispers, you've done this before, you've died before. And this strange, dense, beautiful place is the classroom you chose after the crossing. You came here to embody your soul in the most challenging environment, to bring light into density, to remember truth inside illusion, to choose love where fear reigns. That is not a small mission. That is cosmic bravery. And yet, You carry it inside your breath, inside every choice. Every time you turn inward instead of numbing. Every time you forgive instead of retaliate. Every time you speak truth instead of comply. That's the remembrance in motion. That's the afterlife becoming the beginning. And here's the most powerful part. You're not alone. Other awakened souls walk this dream too. You'll recognize them by their presence, their frequency, their eyes. They're not here to save you. They're here to reflect you, to remind you, to mirror the light you forgot you carried. The more you remember, the more they appear. The dream responds to the dreamer. And the more lucid you become, the more aligned the realm becomes around you. So if you've been wondering why you're here, stop searching for a single answer. You're not here to achieve, you're here to remember. You're not here to conquer the world, you're here to reclaim your soul. And the moment you do, the dream begins to shimmer. It doesn't end, it begins. Not as a continuation of survival, but as a conscious evolution. The afterlife is not later, it's now. And in this now, you are remembering. Remembering why you chose this life. Remembering the contracts you made, the lessons you asked for, the people you agreed to meet, the roles you agreed to play. And the awakening you agreed to have, not at the end of your life, but in the middle of it. Right here, right now. This is the moment you came for. Not to escape, not to die, but to wake up. To walk consciously through the illusion and say, I remember who I am, and now, I choose to live like it.